Hello and welcome to the ABQ Show, the show where we talk with fascinating people who make Albuquerque a great place to live. I'm your host, Wally Drangmeister. We have a guest in the studio, TJ Cook with ABQ ID. TJ, great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm very interested. A lot going on in your world. I'm really excited to let our viewers see what's going on. Tell us, TJ, what is ABQ ID?
ABQ ID stands for ABQ, obviously, and the I and the D stand for Identifying and Developing Startups.
All right.
So we are a startup accelerator and entrepreneurial support nonprofit that also is a partner in a seed fund that invests in startups.
Yes.
So we have programs to support entrepreneurs, accelerate their development, and a seed fund to put real money into them when they show those signs of promise and are ready to put it to work and grow.
Now, currently, how many companies do you have in your accelerator program currently, and potential those that have already graduated out of your program?
Sure. Like our core program is the ABQ ID Accelerator, and last year we launched Activate NM, kind of a evolution of that program. Right. 40 different companies since 2014 have gone through the program, and we've invested in 31 New Mexico-based startups.
Out of that 40?
Right, out of that 40.
Yeah, so your percentage of cash going in that's extremely high ratio for programs like that I know around the country. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, success in entrepreneurial ventures, it's always a challenge. There's always tomorrow. You know, you go step by step by step. In no way to jinx any of those, but what are some of the successes, some examples of companies that are doing well that you continue to work with and have high hopes for?
Sure. So of those 31 investments, we've made follow-on investments, meaning simply put more money into about 7 or 8 of those companies. Okay. So one of them, for example, is iTherapy Docs. That's a company started by the founder, Lisa Brow, and she was a therapist serving people with disabilities. And she was mired in paperwork, and this is back in 2013. Right. Found out that ABQ ID existed right around the time she and her husband said, you know what, Phil, we could do something about this. We could build software to automate a lot of the headache, and it just so happened there's new regulations that are like really putting pressure on therapists and group homes and people serving people with disabilities. And long story short is they built an MVP, a minimum viable product of that software. They came through the ABQ ID program in 2015, which came with some investment, and we ended up follow-on investing in that company, and they're now running a pretty great MRR, which is, you're going to learn lots of business.
No, that's good, and I appreciate that.
Monthly recurring revenue,
yes.
Which especially for a tech company or a startup company is one of those really important KPIs, key performance indicators, showing that month-over-month growth. And so they're in a really exciting place. The grand poobah of success in our world is when a company exits, and we're not talking about leaving New Mexico.
Or leaving this earth, right? It's not a funeral.
But they're doing such awesome stuff and such awesome business that other companies say, you know what, we want to acquire you, right. Or they're running so much great revenue, they're able to buy out their investors, and that's a term that's applied to the investor who puts that money in, right. Getting its money back and then some, getting that return on investment or ROI. Yeah. So. Haven't seen that. We're pretty early days, about four years old in terms of investment fund, but several of the companies continue to grow and make progress in that way.
Well, I have many colleagues that do various forms of venture. I'm involved with a small one myself, and it's incredible. You know, they work on it for years and years and years, and then it makes the paper, and the joke is an overnight success. But you know, a lot of times to get to that point, it takes a lot of work. Yeah. Now, you talked about the recurring monthly revenue model. It's interesting in a software as a service. That's really where the world's gone. You know, anytime Adobe with all of their suite of software and Microsoft go try that, you know that's a common business model. What are some other business models that you see in some of your portfolio companies that are there? Oh, and before I leave that point, the fact that software was very niche, that seems like that's a
Yeah.
Not the only thing that makes for a successful startup, but boy, if you can describe your customer, who you're trying to serve narrowly, it seems like that's almost better than worse. Thoughts on that?
I'm bouncing my knees because I love this conversation around focus and niching in. We do practice a methodology, and kind of our religion at ABQ ID is a lean startup methodology, where it's a framework that companies and founders can use to scientifically validate their value proposition. I think I have this product idea, I think it's amazing, I think there's people who are going to pay for it. The methodology teaches you how to test that, how to put your lab coat on, get part ways with your emotions enough so that you can get out there and look at some data and say, actually, no, that's not what will have a market, but we learned enough that this is, and you do a pivot, and you learn what is the product that has a actual sustainable business model around it. So that's what companies that go through our cohorts and our programming learn.
And tell me that process again that you call it, that to get that customer focus early on and figure out.
So the Accelerator is it's a really immersive, intense program for a founder or a founding team that says, you know what, we've either been spinning our wheels, or we just got this idea, but we really want to grasp the opportunity now because I think the market's ready right now, or we're ready right now. Whether I'm in between jobs, or I just believe I really want to make this thing happen. You spend 8 weeks, you spend 12 weeks in a cohort of other companies and founders who are on point. They get it, and they're working on their own business. And iron sharpens iron. We bring in mentors. We bring in curriculum every week that challenges some assumptions and gets you to act and work lean. And the premise is that at the end of those 8 weeks, at the end of 12 weeks, you've not only made more progress than you probably would have going on your own, but you've got a methodology, a toolkit now that helps you approach your entire business with more sophistication, while not less speed, just more sophistication.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Now, TJ, before we go to some other examples, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into the field of helping startup entrepreneurial companies make progress, and where'd you come from, and how is it going for you?
Well, I was born, Wally, at a very young age. Ha! It's my favorite. I'm pretty much native New Mexico. My father got out of the Air Force in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I was born, and moved here when I was 3. He started a church. I started eating green and red chili, and I went to Manzano High School. I went to UNM. I actually taught at APS for 3 years. And then my buddy, who had his media arts degree at UNM, started what he called this web design firm, which at the end of 3 years working at APS, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try my hand. I've always loved technology. I got my first computer, with a dual floppy drives when I was 8 years old, and but always loved to communicate and stuff like that. I decided to join this company, started as project manager, coding up some websites, things like that for local businesses, and long story short is that company grew from 2 or 3 people when I joined to upwards of 24 people, did over $2 million in revenue, and became focused in the social impact space, providing technology solutions for Lego and Singularity University and World Economic Forum, and took me personally to really interesting places, but got us and got me into the world of technology, shipping products for a variety of different types of businesses and organizations over a 10-year period. And I became the CEO of that company for 4 years before I took this position, so I could really point all that energy and know-how and experience right here at home.
No, that's fascinating. So you do not have to be a CEO to run have that experience, but I do think that when you have it, it just brings so much to it, as you definitely understand what it is to be the person that needs to make it happen.
It helps to have empathy for my founders, the founders with whom I work. For them going through that difficult HR process, letting go of or adding somebody, or facing zero balance in their accounts, like I've been through that. I shed those tears, and it helps to know that they're being led by or directed or be given advice from somebody who's lived through some of these things, the growing pains of having a company.
Yeah. And real quickly before we go to break, what are some of the other types of professionals that work in the program? So when somebody goes through this intensive program, what are some of the skill sets that they're exposed to with some resources?
That's a great question, and actually I think that's what is important about ABQ ID is it's actually not just TJ and our staff, Haynes and Harold.
Right.
It's 30 plus at any given time.
Right.
30 plus mentors who are living it, doing it, and have done it here in Albuquerque and New Mexico, from sales and marketing to the legal aspects of your business to partnerships and how to drive letters of interest, MOUs, sales and marketing, and everything that's all those areas of discipline that you need to grow in as a founder. We bring in those facilitators and those mentors. They either attach to your team for those 8 to 12 weeks, or they attach to the program and help all the companies by coming in for a couple hours. And the connectivity quotient is really high. So at the end of 8 weeks or 12 weeks, you as a founder, you know 20 or 25 key leaders in the community who are live and active in business right now, and probably serial entrepreneurs, and some of them investors as well.
All right.
So we get you connected.
All right, awesome. We're visiting with TJ Cook of ABQ ID. When we come back, we will learn more about his program and talk to him about what sort of entrepreneur might benefit from getting into his program. You're watching the ABQ Show here on ProView Networks.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide coaches award program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Motto Mortgage Brokers works hard to give you more options. Hear why Emilio Vallejo's local brokerage is the perfect fit for this growing family. Call Emilio Vallejo's 505-506-9820.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
ABQ Show. We're visiting with TJ Cook of ABQ ID about the entrepreneurial process and some of the programs that he represents here in Albuquerque to help startup companies get going. And TJ, if I have entrepreneurial aspirations, or maybe I've started a little venture, started a company, working on a technology.
Yep.
What are some of the things I should think about in general, and then when might it be a great idea for the entrepreneur to consider applying to your programs?
Also a great question. There's so much for a founder of a company to think about, but one word is what I think should be every founder, entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur's guiding force, and that is customers.
Yes.
You're going to have the need to patent something. You're going to have the need to think about what's your financial model. You're going to have all sorts of needs. And
what's my logo look like?
Ooh, my logo. Let's work on my logo for 3 weeks, right? But the number one discipline, if you come out of meetings or you're talking with people, let customers be your mantra, right? Because without customers, there's no business. Without customers, you have no input to make the right decisions for the business, whether that's product or market. So let customers be your guiding light. That said, and again, Lean Startup is such a great methodology because it puts all this kind of disciplined thinking around being customer focused into a methodology you can just pick up and start using and kind of guide you, because it's very easy to get off track. But once you've validated, I think that, hey, you know, I've spoken with, I've surveyed, I've researched, I've gone on the ground, and I believe I have customers who are looking for what my idea is. I'd love to sit down and talk, and there's so many great programs. ABQ ID is one of them, but I would personally and professionally love to sit down and talk about what your aspirations are, who those customers are, and maybe see if you're a fit for one of our programs or any of the other partners in the ecosystem with whom we work, and start a conversation. There is one program I would point to specifically, and we just ran our first cohort of this, what I call the evolution of our program. It's Activate NM.
Okay.
What it is a hybrid between that 8-week accelerator experience I was mentioning and the incubation that people need long term, because the magic usually doesn't happen in 8 weeks or even 12 weeks. There's going to be outstanding questions, pivots you have to go on. So what we did is partnered with West Enterprise Center and the awesome team there, and companies who come through the ringer, as it were, in that first 8 weeks, then have space. They can continue to operate, collaborate together, meet weekly to check up on their milestones and their progress they're making. And for as long as they need that support and they're making progress, they're in the community, they're in the program. So it's this nice hybrid between that intensive curriculum and those mentors and just that community where you're not alone and you're forced every week to keep making progress. And applications for that are open. You can go to abqid.com and see the link to Activate NM. And we're hoping to run that cohort again April through May and beyond. And you'll join other companies who are in the program now and making progress.
Yeah, well, and it seems like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, that Broadway corridor is like entrepreneurial support central here in Albuquerque. You know, you're there roughly at Central and Broadway. West is down a little bit closer to Lomas, but there's a lot of things that are happening. You know, 1 Million Cups happens at Fat Pipe across the street from you guys. Are there any other big players in this kind of infrastructure, the system of support? I know there's some others in that area. Just who are there? Just a quick shout out, a couple others.
Yeah, man, quick shout out. Creative Startups doing amazing stuff, and one of their early companies that has gone on to experience a lot of success, Meow Wolf, just came back as an alumni to support their next cohort. And somebody I've been assisting in our office hours applied and got into Creative Startups. Great organization, especially if you have that more creative background. They really know how to adapt that lean startup and mentorship model to entrepreneurs with creative backgrounds, non-traditional backgrounds. So C&M Ingenuity and their deep dive coding boot camps are amazing, with 5 different lanes depending on the tech you really want to spin up on, and then either go create a company or get that job. They also have the Ignite Community Accelerator, which is more geared for small businesses. If you want to start that Main Street business, a restaurant, or
not as much the tech companies and whatever.
More
traditional.
And
that may be the wrong word, but.
Hey, I'm here to support you. If you create a business, it's hard, and I'm here to support you. You know, the Innovate ABQ campus, especially if you have intellectual property, you're a Sandian, you're from AFRL, which is Air Force Research Lab, or you're looking at a physical product that you need rapid prototyping support at. Right on one campus, you've got Sandian National Labs and their entrepreneurial support team. You've got AFRL, you've got STC.UNM, which is the research park arm of UNM. You've got Fuse Makerspace, which has amazing equipment. Anything you might want to fabricate or build, you could be a member there for really
Those are the
low
things
cost.
like the 3D
Jeez.
printers and the milling
gonna-
machines and all of
Yeah.
the fancy stuff. So
I'm
for-
going to keep naming organizations.
No, that's
until
good,
you
good. Now, before we go to another event that you're doing, I just want to give a shout out to the lean process, and just to put some teeth around that concept from my point of view is it's real easy to fall in love with the technology and spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to produce something that is shiny and wonderful, but the market doesn't want it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, business is a risky endeavor, but I just want to say that when I've been involved with ventures that have used that, it's amazing how much more progress you make towards really getting to something that you can make money on, as opposed to just building this black box, figuratively, of technology that maybe nobody ever buys. So.
If we get real brass tacks about this and why it's pragmatically such a great tool set, if you are bootstrapping, which means
it's your money,
your spouse or your family is like, all right, we support you. You have limited time.
Right.
You just have a limited amount of time to prove that this is really something not just in your head. If you are venture backed or you have funding from outside, you have limited time.
Right.
And there's no better way to make the most progress possible than following this: build something, measure whether it works, learn from that measurement, and then build something, get it out there, and that discipline, rather than the falling in love with just building. And that's why I say the customer is at the core of everything, and that's lean startup. So yeah, huge shout out to that. And whether you come through our programs or whether any of these partnerships, lean startup is really baked into the DNA of any healthy startup community, I think. And proud that Albuquerque is becoming one of those. So very important.
Now, I know we have a picture of something that's called Discovery Days. If we could bring that picture up and describe what that is, what that process is like, and what goes on there.
So basically any program we do, whether it's what I was just mentioning as Activate NM, or what you're seeing here, which is a demo day for Hyperspace Challenge, which was an amazing partnership we have embarked on with Air Force Research Lab. One of the things that any company needs is a spotlight to be put on them, right? There's a lot of noise out there around getting out there and being known by those customers beyond who your personal network is. So one of the things we do to democratize entrepreneurship is get these cohorts who come through these programs in front of the community, get them press, give them our own social media attention, but get them in front of the community, other investors, get them connected. The universal law of anything is really that it's about connections. So you're seeing pictures here of startups that have been trying to really get to know who could be a customer for me in this case, data analytics product on the government side. And the awesome team at AFRL approached us and said, hey, can you work with us to put a program together that helps reduce the barrier of customer discovery between a tech startup and the defense community. And that's what we did last November. That's at the Rainforest building on Innovate ABQ, and amazing time just bringing these companies into and giving them that spotlight and that brokering with potential customers. We do office hours. So you're seeing me talk to an entrepreneur there, and so
for the record, I have done office hours with you on a venture that I'm involved with.
Changed your life, right?
Yeah, it did. It actually, and that venture's still going, so we'll talk about that off the air. But yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah,
yeah.
Now, give me another example of a type of company. I think it always helps me to hear some of the specific examples. What's another company that you've really enjoyed to work with, that you've seen some great progress that we might be looking for to do a breakout and maybe get to be that company that becomes a household name, at least in its own niche, if not nationally?
Sure, yeah. One that's coming to mind, there's like 5 I want to talk about. I'll talk about one. There's a company called Bounce Chat. They are actually out of Santa Fe. They went through the program, I think, in 2016. Under the premise that we have a geolocation-based algorithm that people who are going to concerts or bands can use to engage their audience more and really establish a deeper relationship with anybody coming to an event because you can geofence. You can say anybody at this concert, give them a free download or stuff like that. That was the premise.
Yeah.
Well, the founder, Gordon Schaefer, and the amazing team he's built are pivoting and growing, not only in revenue, but the focus on a product that meets a gap in the market. Right. So their new product is actually called Fetch. And it's still location-based, that kind of kernel of being location-based, but it's more in the domain of providing concierge services and errand running and transport of things you need but don't have time to go get yourself. Right. So if you think there's Uber Eats does it for food, TaskRabbit, if you're aware of that, it's a big company out of Silicon Valley that does certain tasks for you, and it's a mobile app-based thing. You click, 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 and you get your thing that you need. Right. Fetch is taking a real differentiated approach because they are really building relationships first and foremost with local businesses who can provide these things versus your Uber Eats and McDonald's, for example.
Yeah, it's more of a national chain-oriented thing, top-down, and this sounds like from the bottom up in a location.
Yeah, but they believe that that can scale. Those relationships can scale, and so they launched in Santa Fe last fall and have done, I think, over 6,800 fetches so far. Okay. Just amazing traction. And back to Lean Startup, right? Right. They're not pushing the location-based app for concert goer engagement anymore. They pivoted to the point they're on a product that I think and we think and more investors think can really be a contender not only here in New Mexico but nationally and internationally. So they're looking to expand even as they learn more lessons. Right. But we're really excited for that technology and that team where it's going. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're running a little bit short on time, but give us one more example. I know you said you had many, but what's another company? Because this is fascinating.
So, Teen Years, founded by Trish Lopez, actually has become a hybrid for-profit, nonprofit. Right. But since going through the program, has developed really a software and service offering to help people of an older persuasion or less comfortable with technology, seniors, get to know their technology, whether that's their new iPhone that their grandchild gave them, by being taught and trained by a tech-savvy teen or college student. Right. So what's amazing about that, and again, practicing the notion of pivoting and finding what the business model works, they offer classes and they partner with entities like Comcast to meet a social need for an aging population, but they also employ teens in that process. And it's intergenerational and it's a beautiful mission, but also a really growing business too.
No, and I've heard a pitch of theirs, I believe at 1 Million Cups, a fascinating business model. Yeah. And being the reluctant tech support person for my extended family, I do think that that's a really valuable service because, you know, it's interesting. As wonderful as our technology is, there are things that happen, and if it's working today, there'll be an upgrade, and people need help to keep that going, and that's a great one. So,
but Best Buy has a Geek Squad, and we have Teen Years.
All right. Well, let people know if they want to get a hold of you, more information about ABQ ID, they think they might be ready to get into an accelerator program. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, check out abqid.com. You can also, if you're a skier, or you like snowboarding or Taos, you can buy a ticket to Ski Lift Pitch. That's skiliftpitch.com, an event we have coming up in February here. And we'd love to see you there, or see you at our office hours, or see your application through our website.
All right, well, TJ, thanks. It was great. You've been watching the ABQ Show with TJ Cook of ABQ ID. Coming up after the break, we have another great guest from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central New Mexico. You're watching the ABQ Show on ProView Networks.